Hello friends, in this video we're going to look at this Yamaha Natural Sound AV Receiver model HTR-5960. We got this at a local thrift store for the price of $14.99. This is a pretty large and powerful unit. Just by the looks of it, I haven't plugged it in and tried it out yet, but we're going to do that shortly. Let's go ahead and look at the back to see what the feature set of this is, aside from the basics that we kind of know it has. It has some form of surround sound. It has a AM/FM receiver and auxiliary inputs, and probably video inputs for various devices that were appropriate at the era. So you can tell by the number of inputs and outputs this has that this was actually a very capable receiver in its day. But they also give you a clue of what the vintage is and why someone may have given it to a thrift store. So composite video is available out of the oldest home video devices, including VHS, cable boxes, things like that. It's still a viable standard, although basically obsolete. These are kind of functional, so they call this one DVD, and they have different names for these that are kind of intended functions. But these are S-video connectors. It's originated from Super VHS, which was supposed to be kind of a high-definition version of VHS. I don't know a lot about that, but I do know that it didn't last very long, and honestly it's hard to conceive of the idea of VHS ever being high definition. We've got optical inputs and outputs here. We've got component video, which made sense in this era. It's kind of the composite is sort of the lowest definition. I think the Super VHS is probably in the middle, and then the component video is the highest definition. So we've got red, green, and blue for each channel this way, giving us our three primary colors to drive the video display with. We've got some outputs here that relate to audio. Everything from this side over is audio outputs, I think. Almost. We've got FM and AM antennas here. That's standard. And lots of channels. They have an A set and a B set, and I've seen on the front that it has a switch selector. A lot of times for these things you can decide whether you want to have one set of speakers or another, or possibly both at the same time. We've got, this is kind of standard too, a switched outlet and an unswitched outlet, one of these, which is just kind of a convenience that you can turn on auxiliary devices with one button through the control of the receiver. I've turned this back around again and plugged it in. I'm going to turn it on for the very first time in 3, 2, 1. Have some nice lights on the display. Sci-Fi, I believe, is the program. These are different programs I'm running through that have kind of settings that go with them. Here's the volume knob. We move in steps of half a dB, which is actually pretty fine grained. We've got some front connectors here for let's see, inputs, I guess. I'm not sure, have to check on that. Here's the AB switches that go with what we saw on the back, headphones. This has an optimizer mic that automatically lets you optimize the levels and maybe even frequency response of all your speakers to kind of get optimal sound in whatever speaker setup you happen to have. So far so good. No smoke. We've got some nice lights. Everything's looking pretty good so far. Now I'll hook up my standard speakers that I have handy, and we'll try those out. I've got a couple of speakers hooked up, this one and another one like it that's out of the shot. I'm going to pull up AM, which I've got this little AM loop antenna set up for. That just gives me a simple way to, well, I believe this works, but I just can't figure out how to run it. Tuner, okay. 630 kilohertz. Let's see, we should have some way to tune the thing with buttons up or down. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Search mode. Turn this up. The AM, we should get at least some static. Oh, I might not have the speakers turned on. There we go. So I don't have an FM antenna hooked up, can't expect much there. So we've got a sports KU basketball game running, it sounds like. I'll turn that down, you get the idea. So this confirms what I suspected, which is that this basically works, or probably works completely. I've only checked out the one function, but everything looks pretty good so far. And in particular, I think the fact that this has obsolete video inputs explains why it was of no interest to whoever gave it away. Basically, everything that involves video nowadays is HDMI in one form or another. And, you know, unless you were some sort of vintage person from 10 years ago or something, you wouldn't have any interest in any other format than HDMI. So this is kind of standard for what I've seen in these things, which is there's a lot of semi-obsolete equipment out there, particularly in the way of AV receivers that you'll find in thrift stores, that are obsolete in the sense of whatever particular features they have. Like features you might want on a newer unit would be, you know, Bluetooth and some sort of network connection for streaming network shows or Spotify or whatever it is that you might want. And what these can still do that's useful that people don't seem to want to retain them for is just use them as plain old audio receivers. So, you know, I don't know who it is that listens to AM in their home anymore unless it's their favorite AM broadcast, like, you know, some sort of talk radio or something. FM you might still listen to at home, that's still viable. But you can hook up your own audio source of some kind, whether it's, you know, a home automation unit like an Alexa unit or a Google unit, or even your own phone through the phone jack, and you can drive this as an ordinary audio receiver. Fairly modern features that it has, like a remote control. This one has, I can tell from some of the lines here, that's similar to a another AV receiver that I have from Yamaha. It has these programs, like this is Roxy Theater, that attempt to simulate a sort of a surround environment to go with, you know, you could just put a standard stereo input into this, hook up surround sound speakers to it, and then get something that sounds more live. Like, let's say the music you put in stereo sounds like it's a band performing on a stage at the Roxy Theater. So that's, you know, that may have some value, but honestly, the people that are really into stereo are going to just want the stereo as it is in most cases. So this kind of, in some ways, is obsolete, in other ways is still perfectly good. And in particular, the fact that these things are so dirt cheap, you know, $14.99, that's a good price on this. But you can routinely get these things for the, you know, $20 to $30, $50 range at thrift stores, and, you know, put one in the basement, or, you know, spread them around your house, whatever you want to do. Now you also have to come up with speakers for that. I did another video about selecting cheap thrift store speakers that featured this speaker and its twin. I got these for $5 a piece, and you know, they're not super high grade audiophile, but they you know, meet in kind of a utilitarian situation such as a basement. So I recommend you look for this kind of thing at your local thrift store if you're interested. Even if you've got a system, you may want to supplement it with a second one that you can put together from thrift store pieces for, you know, let's say under $100 total. So for now, I'll assume that all the other features of this unit work. I'm going to go ahead and hook it up and try them out separately. But the fact that I got this far really suggests to me that this is perfectly good and it works exactly as it was intended. It's just more or less obsolete because of the lack of video support. Well, I did a better setup with the speakers here. Turns out I didn't have this one working quite yet because I didn't have it plugged in properly. But now they're going, both going. Sounds pretty good. Now I have found that these speakers are kind of lacking on the low end and probably need a subwoofer. And I also have a budget subwoofer that I got at a thrift store. Got this one for $12. This is a sharper image. And the main reason I bought this was that it's a powered subwoofer. I haven't tried this one out yet, but it looks like, you know, plug in for power, on off switch. You get your choice of either speaker inputs or line level input, and a volume control overall for the subwoofer. And this is pretty flexible because you can either use this with a conventional stereo system or a unit like this that probably has dedicated subwoofer power outputs, or it may just have a line level output which you couldn't power a passive speaker with, but you could power a something like this. This must include its own amplifier. So probably what we've got going on here, as a guess, I haven't taken this apart, but probably as a guess what we've got is attenuators on the other end of these speakers and a combiner, basically a resistor network to turn two speaker levels into line level, and then an amplifier that's going to amplify it either way, whichever one it comes in, and then of course the volume control and power that goes with that. So let's add that to our setup and find out if the subwoofer works. I plugged this in. It appears to have a power light on it, which I got it turned off right now, so we'll turn that on. Okay, a little blue light and a pop. That's probably okay. I'm going to hook it up to the back of my AV receiver and see what happens. So here on the back of our unit, it's a little hard to see, but we've got a RCA plug that's called subwoofer. Plug that in. Get it plugged into the other end here. I'm going to kind of assume that this isn't broken in the sense of outputting any volts or anything, that it shouldn't. This should be an input only in theory. So I've got the volume turned down pretty low, subwoofer turned off. I'm going to turn it on. Going to crank the volume on that. I don't know if you can hear that at home, but there's a definite thump. I can feel the speaker element under here thumping. We're going to go louder on the overall system. There may be some more controls in the receiver to tailor that, but I'm happy with it so far as it stands. So let's think about what I've got so far. We'll use round numbers. $15 here. $5 times 2. That gets me $25. $12. I'm at $37. And I've got a viable stereo system that I can drive from my phone or other devices. So this ends our video on the Yamaha Natural Sound AV Receiver HTR-5960. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.